Let's begin with this case. So this was a 2-year-old boy, and he complained of fever since 2 days. And from the second day, he complained of pain along the left side of the leg, around the ankle region, and also there was associated limp. So on examination, of course, there was an antalgic limp and inability to bear weight on the left side. And what we can notice is that, is there any obvious clinical finding can anyone pick up?
If not, move on.
Okay. So just to be overcritical, there is little bit of vague diffuse swelling around the left lateral anteromedial aspect of the distal leg. And this was the X-ray which was advised. Any positive findings? Can anyone suggest something?
What would you expect? At 1 week, would you expect anything in the X-ray? But as PD pods, would you look for something in the X-ray? Maybe you can point it out, Darshan.
It's just four days since the symptoms have started. What we look out for at this earliest sign is either an osteopenia, lucency, or a periosteal reaction.
Or even in between the muscle planes, if it's a really well taken X-ray, you will see the air shadow which is wider.
So at this moment, what all things we are thinking at? What all we are dealing at this moment?
DDs, this is interactive, it's you guys, it's for all. Please come up with answers. Otherwise, I'll start pinpointing my boys and girls. Nandini, what would you expect?
I would be suspecting the probability of septic arthritis of the ankle. I would want to do additional investigations. I would want to do an CBC, SR, CRP.
Can you swear and say septic arthritis only, or you would want
Good.
to in terms of
Sino
Nandini is your name? Nandini. Would you not think of a contiguous infection? Something which always is concurrent in general with septic arthritis?
osteomyelitis.
Correct. So the blood reports did show that the raised blood counts, total counts, CRP and ESR was also raised. And the limitation of X-ray is that there is a delay of the changes as early as about 14 days. And in only 20% of the cases, we see the changes, if at all they are present. But it will not show the true extent of the disease or the soft tissue extension of the disease. So the next step, any additional investigation?
Now let our friend answer.
Could do an ultrasound to see further any infection or any soft tissue changes which can be seen.
Correct.
Would not do an MRI since
So
2 years.
ultrasound can be done, and also why not MRI?
2 years, ultrasound is more sensitive. Ultrasound for a 2 year is advisable rather than for an MRI.
Fair enough.
Fine.
Fair
Fine.
enough.
So ultrasound can be done, but in this case MRI was done. But why MRI? So ultrasound has its limitation. It is operator dependent, and also it will be picked up only when there is a collection or a subperiosteal elevation. The limitation is that availability of the high resolution, operator dependent, and also we will not be able to see the extent inside the bone. The medullary extent of the disease will not be picked up in the sonography. So the choice of infection is the MRI, and it will give you the true extent of the affection of the bone, and also it will help in surgical planning. There are other modalities also which have been described, like bone scan, but there is limitation of the anatomical details which it will provide. PET scan also be done, also with respect to leukocyte labels PET scan, but the amount of blood which has to be given in cases of child is quite high, and the radiation, of course. So this was the MRI which was done, and
I think you only tell them.
so there were changes, signal changes in the tibia, and most of them was in the middle as well as the distal affection. What we can also see in the other section is that the extent of the disease outside. So there was collection outside the bone, and there is some in the distal lateral tip of fibula as well. And on the
So I think
cross-
what you note also in this film is that it's almost like a pantibial, and shaft of the tibia is very, very prone to this kind of an infection. So it's like an iceberg, and that's what you have to always remember, that what is coming out or bursting out and presenting to you is after things have really gone wrong quite a lot inside. Go on.
And additionally, which is the best site to operate, because MRI helps in surgical planning, is with the help of the axial imaging, where the maximum area of collection or the subperiosteal abscess would be the preferred area, so that you can, with the surgical debridement, you will be able to clean it maximally. So the whole intention of treatment in such cases is to halt the active inflammation of the body's response. In cases of excessive, you can have like coagulation, consumption, coagulopathy, or multi-organ, multifocal. So you want to prevent that and halt the surgical, halt the disease process and complications. And also, as this infection progresses further, there is chances of chronic, it will progress to chronic osteomyelitis with the formation of sequestrum and involucrum. So the whole idea of intent of treatment at this stage, at earlier stage, is to prevent these late complications, and hence the surgical planning was done.
So we can ask one of the slightly more graduated people. Let's welcome Suchitra from UK, freshly returned, and tell us a little about it. How would you do?
It depends on how much of the collection we have and where exactly the collection is. And if it's a soft tissue collection which is causing pressure, leading to a very tense periosteal abscess, go ahead and drain it, either ultrasound guided or do an open clearance of the collection.
Any further tips on how would you do it open when you do it?
If it's a lateral collection, go via anterolateral approach. And
Now it's
Drain it.
almost spreading into the entire thing. So how would you approach the other side?
if you're decompressing the bone, usually make a small window and then drill it through it so that the collection comes out. Send out culture samples as well at the same time. Also send the bone for biopsy. And
So quite right, on the right track, but to enhance the experience and to make sure that you get rid of it completely, Darshan, go ahead and show what you did.
So when we look at the tibia in cross section, there are studies which helps us to understand how the cross sectional anatomy is. And what we notice is that the maximum dense bone in this picture, what we see is usually at the edges, at the pillars, and between the two pillars. That means it is providing the maximum stability or the strength of the bone. When we do the cortical window, we want to avoid the pathological fracture at any cost. What all small things which we can do is that we can make the cortical window on the surface or either of the surface and prevent these pillars. That will compromise the stability, and hence we have these three possible options according to the site which is maximally affected at the area of abscess collection. So for the surgery, we did two windows, proximal, that is the mid shaft, and the distal area. We did the cortical window should be oval in shape and along the long axis of the bone to further prevent the stress rises and a pathological fracture. And the wound was thoroughly debridement. What we could see is a lot of dirty granulation tissue and the sclerosing of the cortical surface. After the two corticaltomy, the entire canal was reamed and it was cleaned and proper wash was given. Of course, the samples were sent for the culture sensitivity and histopathology, and it was closed over the drain. This was the immediate post-op picture. And the culture after few days did report Staph aureus. So any concerns at this point we are looking at? Anything different anyone would have done? Okay. So
Only one tip I can add, if you just go back to the previous slides. When you all are, one more. Yeah. So when you all are faced with a nearly pan-diaphyseal loss or a potential loss of the entire shaft of the tibia, one of the aims in going in and being aggressive also is to prevent a gap non-union. So what you want to do is then you can really pass a thin catheter or with an infant feeding tube, thread it with a small wire, the smallest possible wire, and like create it like a reamer and go right up to the just subphyseal level and make sure that you decompress the entire thing so that there are no loculi left, and that also allows you, then you remove the wire or the stent from it. If you're working in a pediatric hospital, you will have the additional advantage of the urodynamics people. Those guys have those stents which are flexible enough to go in, so you could use those. And then irrigate it. So all those things help in really decompressing the entire shaft.
So
Go
in
on,
this
yeah.
case, Giggly saw was used, and it would
That
nicely
is another
scrape
way
it.
of doing
Yes.
it, but Jiggly's is not an instrument a lot of people are comfortable with, so I was just giving an alternative.
Okay, so at follow-up, he was immobilized in a slab, and at 4 weeks follow-up, we continued non-weight bearing, and clinically he improved, and at 6 months, the cortical windows also healed well, and this is the 3-year follow-up.
Very nice. So now, no. Decompressing, like
Saline.
Suchitra said, is enough, and getting the idea behind that is to get your cultures. So, yeah. Huh.
Sorry.
The material, no. Send it as is for culture. But that is a lot of saline. That is good enough. Only saline is good enough. You don't want anything that is corrosive in children. Yeah. So well done, Darshan. Let's call Rohit for his next case when he was not so lucky enough to be able to prevent a gap non-union.